And so I would like to introduce Roni Green from Rightbound and Desmond Tsai from Axonius for their conversation, Machine versus Human Face-Off.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Roni from Rightbound, and we also have Desmond Tsai with us. And we're here to talk about AI and machine learning versus human SDRs and ask the question whether AI is smarter than you. What's up, with AI, machine learning, deep learning, big data, and all those buzzwords? Desmond, do you think automation is taking over? Or SDR is going to be replaced?
No, SDRs will certainly not be replaced, right? Right. There's a reason why there's 30,000 SDR jobs out there. There's more. There's certainly a need for it, but SDR jobs are getting just more and more difficult. Connect rates are going down on a daily basis. Automation to increase efficiency, data quality, right? Automation. These are all critical to our success today.
Well, we talked about, different phases in sales development. And if we're looking at like a granular, high level split, there's the research, the initial outreach, and then the conversation phase. And I think one of the things we discussed is that a lot of people kind of forget that there's the definition of the ideal customer profile that comes before that, and also a continuous analysis just to optimize this whole process. And what we want to do is kind of jump into all these different phases and have a face-off between machines and algorithms versus human SDRs. So let's start with the first stage, the ICP definition.
Yeah. So, Roni, my opinion on this one is, I agree with this one. This one is certainly, without into the process of data sourcing, and I agree to an extent that ICP certainly needs to be done through humans, right? Because we understand besides the, obviously, the revenue size and company in industry that you're going after, but there's more than that, right? And it goes down to the persona profile, right? And a human understand better the target market, the problem we solve for certain personas, the ROI, and so on. And again, like I mentioned before, right down to persona profiles based on certain problems, their workflow, whatever it is, that may be a different story. But a lot of this is certainly determined by humans, right?
Definitely. I definitely agree with you. Machines, they can gather and mine data, but this needs to be defined by not only humans, but it's a cross-team effort. It's not only sales, it's marketing and management, and just defining the value proposition and finding the product market fit is something that no machine and no algorithm can do for you. So definitely gonna give humans a high score on this one. So 0-1 the humans for this phase.
And also the even the data sources out there, right? The filters that's available for you to filter things out is limited to industries, locations and revenue size and these type of things, right? So it doesn't give the level of granularity for you to really obviously build out the ideal ICP, right, for any business, to be honest.
Yeah. So you're actually going into research, right? So if you're doing account-based marketing, sure, it's great to prospect manually, but when you need to go broad, you can't rely on just a limited number of data sources. You need a lot of data sources, and not to waste time on manual research. It's pretty timely and costly, not as effective. So when you have AI kind of autonomously prospect for you, all the data is pre-organized, it's segmented, it's quicker, and more importantly, it's scalable, right?
Yeah. So and I believe this is an area where should require the most attention, right? Because this is where any team could easily waste 30-50% of the SDR's time calling the prospects that are irrelevant, have bad data, or even just the process of prospect research is a consuming task, right? But assuming you have identified the process like ICP, to ensure the highest level of accuracy, right? Especially within, for example, Axonius, where we're selling to IT and security, where we have a lot of generic titles, right? And so we really need to, leverage, obviously have a highest level of accuracy of who we're targeting. We're not targeting certain ones, wasting our time in areas where we shouldn't, right? So in this area, I believe all SDR leaders should do a lot of research, talk to peers, don't just settle with one data provider and call it good. In today's world, it's simply just not good enough. I believe it's critical to have a tool that can aggregate data from different sources, right? So it's important to understand, hey, if you're working with this company, are they partnered with other vendors to cover the gaps, right? And most importantly, LinkedIn. There are a lot of tools that don't cover LinkedIn, and that's almost critical. You'll find a lot of discrepancies, and Rightbound is a good example, right? Where they collect, where you guys collect data from 30 different data sources. So, a lot of times, either you have different data sources, for different purposes, one for mass data pool, one for data enrichment. But if you have a tool like Rightbound where you say, hey, if they're scraping 30 data sources out there, you can pretty much trust that, hey, if it's out there, I'm going to get it, right? And, it can integrate with their, Salesloft, your CRM, and that's a different, that will go into kind of the next segment of data segmentation, right? But at least data coming in, you have the best data, you have you have everything you need.
So definitely a lot of points for machines for this one. Definitely agree with everything you said, and I think that adding the enrichment layers on top of the research is crucial. As you mentioned, different data sources have different strong suits. And, there's account level and the prospect level. You want to know what the company structure is, what the tech stack they're using, on the persona level, what their interests in, their personal behavior, of course, accurate contact details. I think this is one of the first things we were talking about. So, of course, SDRs can go manually through, LinkedIn or whatever data source and search for granular information, but you won't get the accuracy levels and just the efficiency that a machine can do this with, even if you're connected to LinkedIn and ZoomInfo and a lot of different data sources.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in data enrichment, and again, right, I think it goes back to tool, right? Its ability to integrate with your CRMs, and be able to active append, right? And as they go into the CRM, Salesloft, Salesforce, whatever it is, however that's set up, it's identifying those things, active appending that data, and I know this is a different segment, but its ability to obviously segment the data as well, right? And that may be a process may not be on to do this tool, but through as the data goes in, build that process, and segment not just by revenue, territory, industry, but down to the so a lot of times, and this kind of goes back a little bit to the research part and the data enrichment is, a lot of the data tools out there don't have this data available. It goes, you can do some filters, find the data that you need, do some scrubbing and get as accurate as you can get. But once it goes into your database, that search and filtering function almost disappears, right? And that limits your ability to run targeted and successful campaigns. So for me, what I've always in the past is obviously working with a good vendor, right, like Rightbound, other vendors that we work with to get the data. But once it go in there, we make sure that we don't lose the ability to segment the data, right? Not by revenue, but by persona, based on the problem we solve. How does that align with our talk track, right? Obviously, the more targeted the approach, it drives more consistency in your messaging and your ability to handle the objections, and therefore improve your overall conversation quality, leading to more meetings, right?
Definitely. So that's 2-to-1 for machines so far. When preparing for today's session, I spoke with a lot of sales leaders, and one of them, Gal Gift Now, he had a nice way to put it. He said, automation is kind of inevitable, but it should be allocated to certain tiers. So the challenge, as he says, is you need to have personalization, but you can't personalize everything all the time. So you need to kind of prioritize, I guess, where you put the time in. And they kind of split it into tiers. And they say, automation is very, very important. And it's also dependent, on what the selling structure is. That was very interesting. So moving on to the actual outreach. So multi-channel outreach, there's channels today: email, LinkedIn, surveys, gifting, advertising, and a lot of different formats, written and video, and very, very broad array of channels. So obviously no machine can ever achieve the level of personalizations that human can do, right? And when you have automation, you have all these automation errors. Like, I assume everybody in the audience at least once got an email saying first name. So that happens. But having said that, when you have a machine, an engine doing outreach for you, at least the initial outreach to your target audience, you can achieve a really large volume. So increasing top of the funnel and kind of, you mentioned, Desmond, segmentation, how important that is, right? To have different messaging for different personas. And it's not only that, it's just automatically prioritizing, the length of the cadence, the padding between steps, the pace. Do you want to share a bit about what you guys do with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, even with the, multi-channel outreach, and you mentioned here, right, there's, automation or, automation error, a lot of times when we want to do this, and like I said, in volume is, again, starts with the good data quality, a good vendor, and good data segmentation process, right? Because what we have done is, when we put the data in the system, obviously segmenting them, but the way we manage our kind of bucket into groups is not just by the problem we solve in the persona, but even down to which out of those, which have direct and mobile phone number, which ones are just corporate line and email, and the ones with just corporate line and email, that's the corporate line number matches the direct phone number. In that case, we would make the direct phone number blank and go through more enrichment process, because that's something to see very often. And we would run them through, and obviously anything that doesn't, to minimize obviously automation errors, even with the names and so on. And then once we have done that, obviously there are so many great tools out there today, right? Outreach sales allow to drive more efficiency, automation, prioritization. And again, assuming you have done a great job with data quality and segmentation, right? What we have done is we will obviously, have a targeted group based on certain persona, consistently talk track, but then we will run a email heavy cadence for the ones that are corporate phone number and, with just email, because those are very time consuming, but also considering types, of course, but for the most part, they're email heavy because they're time consuming and you may not even get a hold of someone. So that's not where we want our SDRs to spend their time, and where will we have a lot of mobile phone numbers and direct phone numbers. And this is again why a good data vendor is important, right? Because you can have up to 30-40% of mobile phone numbers, and that's where we focus. We have run a separate cadence, and that's where a lot of our volume is focused on.
So another point for AI on this one.
Absolutely.
And another person I spoke with, Tyler from Partner Stack, he said, it's important to test things, and you can test things manually, and you can work on segmentation and testing different touch points and analyzing them. But in order to scale, you have to scale through automation. And I think every marketing executive and every sales executive I've spoken with kind of shares this opinion. And as we go on, with follow-ups, when you have prospects that are somewhat engaged, for example, they opened a few emails, or maybe they read a case study for 60 seconds, or they clicked on a link to a blog post in one of the emails. So it's crucial to have, timely follow-ups. When you run multiple sequences, you can't have a person kind of allocating each prospect to cadences manually. And for follow-ups, I think, in my opinion, timing is also super crucial. So, for example, if someone filled in a survey on Saturday and there is no SDR to kind of follow up on that, but when you have a machine running your cadence automatically, 1 hour after they fill in the survey, they can get an email saying, thanks for filling in the survey. Here's a nice gift card as a thank you for your time. I have some follow-up questions. Can we speak tomorrow? So no matter the time zone or if people are on vacation or, timely follow-ups, I think you had some really nice stats about this one when we were speaking earlier, right?
Yeah, I do, right? And I think this is, and again, right, I think I'm going to point out that I think this is highly dependent on, from organization to organization, obviously the campaign they may be running. So the messaging, right? I think the message, not having a generic messaging, just, oh, hey, thank you for downloading this or whatever it is. Put a lot of, time and effort into, these responses, I think is critical. But yes, correct. Timing is important as well. So, at one of our previous companies, we obviously, and guys, right, A/B testings, your templates, whatever's important. But nonetheless, we identified that, when we, for the inbound, someone requesting a demo, someone downloaded something, and depending on which content or the action that they have taken, we have different responses, different actions that we want them to take. But nonetheless, we found that, if we respond within 24 hours, we would have 100% increase in response rate and meeting conversion rate. And if we respond under an hour, that will go up by another 50%, right? And this is, this is, so it's quite significant. But again, right, if it's a generic messaging, thank you for downloading this, let me know if you have any questions, then you may not get the kind of response. So, put some time and effort into personalizing it, but also have a meaningful response relevant to the action they have taken. That's what's going to drive the conversion. But what we have done later on is, we made that, we made the response, made a goal to respond within 5 minutes.
So, 5 minutes. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. So another point to the machine here on this one, and another nice point of view that I got was from Kyle from Printfection. He said, it actually depends on the deal size. So timing is everything, and he was talking about the velocity that you need to generate pipeline, and just the fact that the larger the deals are and the longer the life cycle, you can allow yourself to work more manually and to be more custom and more personalized. But when you're targeting maybe smaller companies and smaller deals with a quick growth stage type of deal types, definitely this is very important to audit this follow-up process. So after that, when you actually have someone that's willing to speak with you, I think this is where, bots and machines can never hold a real conversation, like never. If you get a human to engage, you have to have a human on the other side. There is no replacement for, your voice, your tone, a real two-way mutual interaction. And all of SDRs today mentioned that people don't really pick up the phone, and people don't really like calling or cold calling as much. And a lot of people say, in my audience, cold calling doesn't work. What do you have to say about that?
No, absolutely not. I mean, when you consider the your response rate from calls versus email, calls are still 10 times higher, right? And if you look
10 times higher.
Wow. Again, it was dependent on the industry that you're in, but it's most of the time it's quite significant, right? And response rate, and I don't mean hey, take me off your list. Positive response, right? But nonetheless, right? So so there's many ways to to look at this, but there's no because with an email you don't have your ability to handle those objections or and with many new technology out there, half the time prospects don't even fully understand what you're trying to sell them, right? A quick elevator pitch, they may kind of go, oh, even because, for example, at Axonius, we solve a problem for that applies to 70+% of people in IT space. But a lot of time when we talk to them, because it's such a new technology, solving a problem that has never been solved, they go, oh, that's not what I do. And as we've been to it more, say, hey, this is part of the process. Based on your role, here's what we do, and this is how we can make this process, simplify this process and solve this problem. And they go, oh, that's now I get it, right? And with an email, they may have just told you no, right? Or that's not what I do. But yeah,
I think about emails, I think it's emails is a really important channel to kind of warm people up to the conversation that you're talking about. So if they're knowledgeable about in general what your product does, if they saw something, they read something, maybe even did something, engaged with your content, they might, they probably feel more, I don't know if obligated, but more open, I guess, to talking. So when you cold call someone after there was some initial engagement, that means response rates are much, much higher. So I think the only thing I can say about machines being, better and smarter than humans on this part of the process is just that they're always available and everything is documented. All the jokes about call logging and poor documentation. But definitely for this, I totally agree with you, and I think. Very, very high score for human here. And, our BDR at Rightbound, Casey, he always says, he says, I feel people forgot how to speak on the phone, and a 1-minute conversation is better than 100 back and forth emails and text messages. And, there's a phone interaction will always, always, always beat, something automated like a conversational bot, always, every time. And I think
Google may think differently though.
maybe. And then, after you get that person on the phone, it doesn't end there, right? You have the whole process from qualifying the leads to getting them to a demo. So, here's where AI and applications can help with routing and tasks and reminders and real-time alerts. And obviously, this is where integrations come into play. And you mentioned that, I think, several times during the session. How sure nothing slips between the cracks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, for us, we have, once we have the conversation, we turn them into the meeting. Obviously, it's important to do your due diligence, right? Because we want the meeting to show up, and we also want the deal to convert. So, what we have done is we automate this process of, routing, make sure he's routing to the, minimize the manual work that our SDRs have to do, just to make sure it's routing to the right places, is have the right correct Zoom meeting link, right? So so there's a lot of things you can automate here, and minimize any filling out manually sending the invite and all these things. So we automate that process, and also the follow-up process. Right, so we make sure that we have it. Once we click, mark as a success on sales log or outreach, right, automatically sends this prospect profile to another 3-step follow-up cadence where we confirm the meeting. And the second one is automated email sending out, says, hey, obviously we want to make this meeting worth their while. We want to focus this meeting on the problems that you're looking to resolve. Maybe even include a quick survey, right? So our reps can go in there and not waste their 30 minutes and talk about, here's who I am, who you are, what do you do, right? We want to progress this meeting to the step. And then the third one is obviously to make sure that they show up. So by doing this, we have achieved 90+% meeting completion rate, generally about
90+. Wow, that's really high as a benchmark. I
Yeah,
bet
and
everybody in the audience is jealous of that
yeah,
specific benchmark.
yeah, and by putting together again these messaging and surveys and so on, if it's and product marketing is probably the best to put these things together for you. But if you can go in there and start selling, we have seen conversion rate on over a course of a year as has 55% to an opportunity, right?
Amazing. And I think one of the most important aspects of, in bettering those statistics and those success rates is to have a continuous analysis and a continuous optimization of the whole process. So, AI can help with ABCD testing, and instead, having a person look at data and then kind of do make changes to either the playbook or the targeting, where it's pretty manual. When you have a software that does that with an automated algorithm, you can just sit by, and things are optimized as you go along. So you can achieve a process where things are getting better and better, where the machine and the algorithm learns the behavior of your prospects and your workflow and what works, and then it's kind of auto optimized, I guess. But nonetheless, there needs to be a human teaching the machine, right? Machines are not born smart. So people are the ones making the decisions, making the conclusions, deriving the conclusions, and analyzing the data that, analytics and data that AI gives to you, and teaching the machine how to get better and how to optimize the process.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many great tools out there. One of the biggest, obviously, benefit nowadays with all these new tools is their reporting capability, right? Really showing us things that we have never seen before, or even as simple as and a lot of people overlook these things, even the SDRs, right? So a lot of times I often see people running very long cadences, and especially with inbound leads. But trust the data, right? If you see that your connect rate and open rate significantly drops, after step 5, step 6, and that's pretty normal. It's okay, right? It's okay to end it at make this an 8-step rather than a 21-step, because you're going to recycle these people again. It's better to not, and assuming a long cadence also means you likely exhaust your content, right?
But when you look at analytics, it used to be analytics, and then it was now we have actionable analytics where you can do something based on the data. But now it's like a whole new level. It's the algorithm, the app actually does what needs to be done autonomously, and you can kind of sit back and watch it happen. And Lior from Site, she was saying, you need to use data to drive strategy. You need to analyze everything and look at the data and look at the sales funnel and look at all the forecasts and see everything. There's transparency when looking into analytics, and I think, as you mentioned, it's important for SDRs and not only for field sales to look at the analytics and the dashboards and kind of use the data and make things happen according to the data. And I think that with all the things we discussed, is AI smarter than you? I don't know. There are things where an algorithm can do better. There are things where there is no replacement for the human touch. And, I kind of went and did an average of our scoring. And AI got a 60% average and humans got a 53%. So if we were at an MBA, both sides would fail. So I guess, neither would do on its own. And probably, the best conclusion to this discussion, teamwork makes the dream work. You can't have only machines. You can't have only SDRs. You have to have, a real person utilizing AI, and that would probably, get you the best results. That was our conclusion.
Yeah, Roni, I think that's that's a good benchmark, right, for for everyone to take away, right? If you're not, at least 50, 60+%, automated in your day-to-day process, right? Where the SDRs can focus just on selling, right? No data research, everything is automated, everything is just a click away. Then it's something to work towards too, right? It's certainly doable, right? In today's world.
Definitely. And we would love to invite everyone here to kind of share your thoughts and connect with us over LinkedIn. We'll be sharing this session and the recording. And if anyone wants to stick around and chat here on AirMeet, that's amazing. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, Desmond, for your valuable insight and input. And we're here to connect after the conference and throughout.
Great. Thank you so much, Roni and Desmond. What a great session.
Thanks Renee. Thanks to everyone for being here.